This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, and online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go right now over to squarespace.com and use offer code GAMEBREAKER6. You would not be sorry. I promise.
Game Breaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this Saturday edition the live Saturday edition of This Week in MMO, episode 148 for June 15th, 2013, our E3 wrap-up show. That's right, we're back from E3, and we got lots and lots to talk about. I'm Gary Gannon, you're watching Game Breaker TV. Joining me, as always, from Zam.com, Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Scott Hawks. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, how are you?
We're both a little under the weather, so if the energy seems a little bit odd this week, well, yes. Yeah, we're going to complain a little bit. Yes, we were at E3. Yes, we were partying. Yes, we were consuming lots of alcohol. Yes, Zed was spitting at the Wargaming party. Yes, there was... No?
I would never do such a thing. That's a horrendous thing to say.
None of that happened?
You must have been imagining me standing next to you at the time. What?
Maybe I got knocked out. I do have a bump on my head.
You. Was that from Wargaming too? Or?
Maybe. I don't know. Got a bump on my head, woke up, pants around my ankles. I have no idea what happened.
That was probably from Wargaming then, yeah.
Probably was. No, just kidding. But yes, I apologize. My throat's a little weird. I have a crazy sore throat after the show. Not sure if I'm getting sick or whatever, but gotta be here. Gotta do the show. We gotta do the E3 wrap-up show. We didn't get to do it. Like, we said we were gonna try and do something at E3.
Couldn't try just.
It was impossible. It was just, no, it wasn't. It could not happen. There was just too much going on, too many meetings, like too many things, like going to see games and stuff, and that was the most important thing. And then you flew out promptly.
Yes.
So we couldn't really do it. So we're here Saturday.
I had to get a lift to the airport and had to run.
Run, literally. Let's talk a little bit about the E3 experience. This is your first E3, right?
Yes, it is. It was my first E3, and I had certain ideas of what it would be like, but I was wrong.
Really? Let me first. What were your? Because you've been to some other big conferences. Not like you haven't been to. You've been to G-Star, which is gigantic. You've been to GDC, which is pretty big. So what did you think E3 was going to be like before you got there?
Well, the thing is, this is my perception of E3 back before I was doing this whole thing. I mean, I've got more of an idea now. I've been to the others. But you might be thinking, well, I'm going to go to E3 and it's going to be games everywhere. I'm just going to play games all day. And I'm going to say hi to people and then play some more games. And it's going to be fantastic. And it was great, but the amount of time I actually played with my hands on a controller or on a mouse was very minimal.
It's very limited, right?
It's just meetings. Yeah. It's
partly
because
a lot of the times you're setting up meetings beforehand, and then a lot of the times you're going behind closed doors with a lot of the companies where they're showing like a presentation and they're giving a demo, and a lot of the times, a lot of the stuff we're looking at, they don't actually give you any hands-on time play with. There are some stuff that they give you hands-on time with, and I feel like the MMO space this year especially was incredibly small. Like, we got a lot of games to kind of talk about, but I mean, when you get there, you realize you're just like, wow, the video game industry is not really about MMOs. It's about
there's
Xbox.
that, yeah.
It's like you're just totally eclipsed by, like, the consoles.
But and also, like, trying to get people who are making MMOs to talk about something other than bloody consoles this year was a bit difficult too. Because I know on Zam we're really PC focused. Mm-hmm. So whenever possible, we don't write about consoles. So when I'm going into meetings and they're taking, right, we're going to talk about World of Tanks. I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about, and it's a 45-minute talk about consoles. It's like, okay, let's try and I mean, we ended up talking about some general things about wargaming and where they're going in the direction and all that, which was cool. But yeah, lots of people wanted to talk consoles, which is not surprising because, hey, it's the big thing. It was, let's face it, that first day, I mean, I was there on the Monday before the show even started when the press conference was going on, and everybody's just watching the announcements, waiting. Okay, Xbox have just rolled the car over their own foot, then shot it, and then thrown themselves underneath the bus. Let's see how Sony reacts.
And even MMO players are just all this week talking about consoles. So the MMO players even paying attention to it. But
the devs were all talking about them as well. I was going to dev meetings and saying, "What do you think about the PS4?" I mean, I've stuck to Jens Anderson, who's head guy on DCUO, and he was showing DCUO on the PlayStation 4. And then after he says, "What do you think about X1 versus PlayStation 4?"
Yeah, that's all everybody wants to talk about. Like that. I mean, the keynotes were the big topic of conversation and chatter around the floor. So I'm watching chat room while people are like going, "But didn't XIV have a big showing?" And yeah, we're gonna get to all that. So we have MMOs to talk about. Believe me, they're there. But when you're actually physically at E3 and you're on the showroom floor, you're like, "There's that one booth over there."
Yeah, and you've got Battlefield 4, and then you got Wargaming because hey, they own the world. They've got a big Wargaming booth. But then over at the back, you've got look, there's an MMO here.
They're there. It's just a different. It's kind of hard to, I guess, explain what it feels like when you're actually there. But going there, trying to cover PC games and MMOs, you do realize that wow, how much we are in the minority. So it's pretty fun. Funny story. Like so, Mike. We brought Mike Shafted. Mike Shaft and myself went down there to cover all this stuff, and I was talking to him on the way down there. I'm like, "So this is your first E3? Like you've been thinking about this like your whole life? You know, as a kid, you used to watch the keynotes. You couldn't wait to go. Like, what do you expect?" And you know, after the whole thing was done and we were driving home after the third night, I was like, we're sitting in traffic. I was like, okay, so what do you think of E3? He's like, well, I guess when I was a kid, I never really thought about it. That if I was going to E3, I'd probably be working. And then when I get there, it's work. Like we're working. And I'm like, yeah, what did you think? Exactly. It's just a big arcade and you're just going to be like, I'm going to play games and this, that. I'm like, you get to play some games. You see some cool stuff. You talk to some cool people, but almost everybody there is like working. Like you're hustling, going from place to place to place to place to place. So... But we just sound like two old crotchety like MFers like complaining that we went to E3. And this is why the press like kind of got E3 closed down at some point, right? Because they were just like, we can't even see anything. And that's not to say this is your first year. E3 is getting back to that. This is the first year I really feel like E3 is like, it's back to big ass grandiose E3. And it's getting back to like press Battlefield, right? We both wanted to play Battlefield. Forget it. That would have been our whole day. That would have been your whole day.
Honestly, that's it. I get in there and I'm like, right, I've got 4 hours in the morning where I booked one day where I had 3 hours to go in and just try and play the games that I wanted to play. Like over the time I was there, that's the only time to try and do that on the floor. I went in and Battlefield 4 is the game I want to play because me and a mutual friend of ours play Battlefield 3 multiplayer to death, and we're really looking forward to this one. So I went in, and it looked like I was at Disneyland waiting for a ride.
It was,
and it looked amazing.
It literally does.
And then I spoke to one of the guys at Riot. Went over to Riot and said hi to everybody at Riot, and went over to Riot and spoke to one of the guys there. And he says, "Oh yeah, I played it today." And I goes, "Did you? Oh God!" He goes, "It's amazing and all that." I said, "How did you get it?" He goes, "I had a VIP pass." And he still had a 35-minute wait with a VIP pass to get in there. So there was just no way. There was like 3 games that I would have loved to play. A game within an inch of playing Batman Arkham Origins. Within an inch of it. But I had to go for a different meeting in the Warner Brothers like executive place. And I couldn't get on it. And I'm like, ugh! So you're surrounded by games all the time. It's like being in a chocolate factory and a diabetic. You're just like, oh, it all looks so good, but I can't touch any of it because I just can't right now.
So this is what I do. I try and watch as much as I can because you can get up close and you can watch people. I know it's not the same thing as getting your hands on, but you can learn a lot. Like if you're really watching and paying attention and even like watching a controller or watching, I find I can at least get more data and actually stuff coming in. Like, you know, how is these systems working? How are these, you know, how are the mechanics working? I'll just like go up and just try and watch as much as I can because I know if I got to wait for it, it ain't going to happen. But forget that. We actually
haven't got big barriers around even the play session, so you can't really.
It is still a lot of fun. I actually love E3.
It is.
It's one of my favorite conferences. People are saying PAX. I'm going to be a total jerk and say I hate PAX. I can't stand it. Never going again. I love the fans.
I don't like PAX.
I'll be there.
I'm looking forward to PAX. Like you're the dissenting voice because I know lots of people again who love PAX, and I've got people who are going and like I'm meeting up with Elizabeth, and she's gonna show me like what the place is like around there and stuff, and there's a lot of other people I'm gonna meet up with there. So I'm really looking forward to PAX. It's gonna be great. But you just turn around and say everybody smells, and
yep,
and it's horrible.
I mean, I get why gamers love it, right? Because they can't get into E3, they can't get into Gamescom. Like,
sure.
Gamescom they actually can. That is open to the public. I'm sorry, that's wrong. But so for a lot of them, PAX is the place to go, so they get to check out those games, which is definitely cool. But yeah, trying to get like things done. I only went to PAX. I've only been to one PAX, but trying to get like things done, like what we're and again, we're working. We're not just like there to like play games, and we are, but we're actually anyway. That's in here. Let's talk about some MMOs. This is an MMO show.
Okay.
Let's first of all, the big news I think for our people watching this show, including us, mind blown, was of course during the Sony keynote with the announcement of Elder Scrolls Online going to PS4. And wow, did everybody was floored. My Twitter just absolutely went crazy nonstop. But holy cow, do a lot of things make a lot more sense now.
Don't they make a lot of sense?
Don't they make a lot more sense?
To each other.
Yeah, a lot. Everything makes a lot more sense.
Does it make a lot more sense? Yeah, it does. Yeah. Things kind of. Yeah, it really does. I got my first hands-on time as well. It's my first time I've ever played Elder Scrolls. I'm really interested in what you think of it.
So I got 30 minutes sit down. I didn't do the demo. I missed the demo, but I got to sit down and play it for about 30 minutes. So I was trying to, I always talk about when you go to conferences, it's really hard to focus and like there's so much going on. There's just like blaring, there's people. So it's really hard to kind of.
You've got the sign over your head, a 20-foot one spinning around with lights hitting you off it and everything.
And you're trying to be like objective and you're trying to like take in things and really, because I know that like our viewers, like they want the nitty gritty, right? Like they want details, they want details, they want stuff. And it's like, it's really hard to take this in. So granted, 30 minutes into the game, you're all going to hate me because I don't really have like that much to really give you. I really need more time with this game because it is. So here's what I'm thinking. Here are my initial thoughts when I walked away from it. First up, I feel like the world, the environment definitely felt like Skyrim. Like it definitely felt like an Elder Scrolls world. Like I think they nailed the feel. Yet it does not feel at all like a single player RPG or like Skyrim or what you're used to in Skyrim. So I don't think there's that. I jumped in, Mike Shaftnet and I, first thing I noticed was the UI was very clean, really clean, not a lot on the screen, not a lot to pay attention to the point that I didn't even know that I had some ability points to spend, and actually get them on my bar and stuff. So I didn't see a bar and I had nothing along the sides. So somebody came over, helped me with that, got that sorted. And then it was just dropped like on like some sort of bridge area. And I was like, what do I do? What to do. I was like, there was no direction whatsoever. And I looked and I turned and I saw like, well, that kind of looks like a town. I guess I'll go towards that town, see what happens. And I run over to the town and go into the town, and a dog just runs up to me out of nowhere and he's like, ruff, ruff. And then you start talking, you're like, hey boy, what's going on? And then you like realize maybe I should follow the dog. And the dog kind of leads you on to your sort of like first quest. So that kind of breadcrumbed me and I started getting quests and things like that. The combat, let's talk about combat for a second. It's still early.
It needs work.
It needs some work.
Yeah.
It feels a little floaty right now. It doesn't feel extremely heavy, which is the first thing I noticed coming out from a Skyrim player. I'm like, man, I did two-handers in like Skyrim, and when you swung that thing, you were like, right. But again, this can all be dialed in, right? But the combat felt a little disconnected. Like there's a little disconnection between me and my character.
There was times when you're swinging a sword and you're like 3 or 4 feet away from your target and you're still getting hit and you're like that doesn't feel good. There's a lot of tuning to be done on combat, definitely.
That being said, some of these skills that I acquired were actually kind of fun and cool. I mean that chain thing, and you did Dragon Knight. I got the chain. Okay, pull them in,
fiery reach.
Some really cool abilities, and they look really good.
Did you get the draconic spikes that come out of you?
No, I did not get that.
They look really cool. Yeah, they're nice.
story wise, I have to completely admit I was reading some of it, but not much. And main reason I wasn't reading a whole lot of it was just because, like, man, I've got 30 minutes here. Like, I want to see some of this game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to take so much away from this story that I'm going to come back to you and be like, oh my god, I was on this epic quest line, and like I would never have finished it, so it didn't really matter. So I was kind of clicking through stuff. I did some of the reading. It felt Elder Scrollsy. Writing felt pretty solid. It felt like you were doing that. And then Shafnet and I actually grouped up at some point finally. No, because we didn't. So we grouped up and we just. I said to him, look, like then I looked at my watch, and this was at the end of the day of the third day. So like you knew they were going to throw everybody out at 5 o'clock. Like that horn was going to ring, and you were like, you're getting out of that chair. And we sat down at 4:30. So it was like 10 to 5. I said, let's just start running. Let's just find something. Let's get out of this town. Forget the quests that we're on. Like, let's just go explore and see what the hell this place looks like. So we ran out into this area and we found, like you do in Skyrim, just like a random dungeon, just like some the side of a cave. Not really the side of a cave. It had a door, but the side of like a mountain. There was just an opening. So we went in and we started clearing this dungeon. Again, it was fun. It looked good. We finished that stuff up, went outside, we found some boss mob, and we tried to take him down. We both died. And basically that was the end of our thing. I think so. So I know what you're getting at. So the questing, when you're grouped up, we're going to talk about in a second, which I think can create some issues that we've been sort of trying to understand for a long time, which I could see are definitely...
Then the console announcement came out, we went, oh...
You did, but
thinking for that.
Here's my question, though. Here's my question to you then. So you've had more hands-on time than I have. You've played it a bit more than I have in this. So it still very much to me feels like it's structured like an MMO. They don't want to call it an MMO, but I'm like, this is an MMO. Like there's more story, but there's hotbars, there's skills. Like this is very much an MMO. Like I don't necessarily know how exactly you can spin it as a multiplayer like Skyrim.
It's not a co-op single player RPG. It's not.
No. And that's where I'm still confused and I want to play it more and understand it more. Is that because my fear right now is that if they're going for multiplayer, like, on consoles for a multiplayer style game, like multiplayer Skyrim, we run into this issue that you've been talking about forever, where when you're not on the same phase of the quest, you're not in sync with your buddy.
Well, you can't be on the same phase.
Right. And like you get separated. Your path gets separated constantly between phasing, even just turning things in. That kind of breaks it down for me at that point, because now I'm like, okay, why am I playing this? Like I've always wanted to play Skyrim with my buddy, but now I'm going to constantly be like forced away from him.
That's it. It looks and feels like an MMO when you're playing it. Some of the systems aren't what you would expect with an MMO, which is the group system being one of them. I was playing with Mike B, and we did a quest, which is a protection quest, where there were these three like druids, Daedra druids, who we were protecting. And because it was one of those type of quests, then we did share in it. And it was we could both see what's going on, so we got the experience and we got the credit for doing that. So those specific ones, and I was told this back at ZeniMax, works okay as a group, but it's when it's just individually, like all right, I'm clicking on this and I'm getting the quest and I have to follow this person or I have to go and do this. You get it separates you. So being in a group for those makes no difference whatsoever, except for the speed at which you can kill stuff is of course better because you're with people and you get a bit of an XP boost. So the as I said, it looks and feels like an MMO, absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
But there are structures within the game that aren't something you'd automatically think of as being in an MMO.
And I was trying to, and again, extremely limited playtime, right? Haven't really experienced a lot of these like situations. Didn't even experience the situation grouping with Mike Shafnet where we got separated. So I haven't even had that like sort of. But we do a lot of speculating. You've played it a bunch. We talk about this. What I'm trying to understand then is it does feel like the systems and all are like very MMO-ish, but there's those things to break it and not break it, but they're doing it differently. and they want to do more of a multiplayer like co-op thing on console players, but I don't really see that it does that either. So I start going like, what does it really do? Like it almost feels like it's, and this could just be out of ignorance and lack of time with it, but I almost feel like it's a fractured, like two different ideas of a fractured game that kind of like are separated, and they're not really like cohesive enough to create like this like cohesive experience.
It does.
You agree? Like, I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm bagging on Tesla because I honestly feel like I want more time with it because I could be missing it completely.
No, I agree to a certain extent. I think, I keep on saying this, and I'm sorry. The advantage an MMO has, the only advantage that an MMO has over any other over single player game, is, and it's not graphics. If you're an MMO fan and you think that your graphics on your MMO are as good as the best single-player RPGs out there, I hate to shatter those illusions, but it's just not true. Aesthetically, they can be great, but graphic-wise, it's difficult to set things up when you've got such a big world and you've got all of the stress that having lots of players brings together. So things like that, moment-to-moment experiences, all of that, an MMO is at a disadvantage, except when it comes to having lots of players working together and having an epic social experience. You can bring that. And you can have big experiences like huge mobs or whatever, because it feels more likely you can do it if there's 30 or 40 of you or whatever fighting together to take it on than if it was just you, and then you just have to be immensely powerful.
And that's
so you got that advantage.
And that's content that we haven't really seen yet, right? That's what's going to.
No, we haven't seen it.
They're talking about adventure zones and things like that, which now I say I'm wondering if that's even up in the air, because the last thing we had heard, correct me if I'm wrong, about adventure zones was the plan that they had these massive open world areas that were going to have like group content, but they were not going to be shipping with that probably.
No,
like that was not. Now I don't know, because now it's delayed. So with the PS4 announcement, it's delayed even longer.
It's possible. Yeah, spring 2014. It might be. We could have adventure zones at launch, maybe. But as I said, so far what I've seen is we've got an MMO. It feels and plays like the feel of the game is like anyone would expect for who's played an MMO.
Mm-hmm.
But
with action combat, like slightly.
Yeah.
Like I guess the closest thing I could kind of describe to you guys is in a good way, because I know you guys know that I don't like the game, but Terra. I don't think I ever slagged really the combat of Terra. So you've got this crosshair, you've got right mouse button, left mouse button, and you've got your 1-2 keys. So I actually kind of like the setup, and I kind of like that. I feel like if you can get the connects better, I'll like the combat system a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's a lot of potential within it, especially with the amount of individualization you've got with all the abilities and everything. A lot of potential, I think, for the combat to be really good. I think, as you said, the world, it feels like Skyrim. When you're in the world, it feels like Skyrim.
Here's my thing.
Itself, but wherever you are.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, because this is something that somebody else brought up, and they said, like, look, like, it feels like Skyrim, but what will Skyrim players say? Like, will they just look at, the people, so outside of leaving that, some other people who played it kind of came to me and they said, I wonder what, not the MMO player will think, because the MMO player will see this and get this. Oh, this is an MMO. Like, this is what we're used to. Like, our characters are kind of small and they look like this, and we have like number bars. Like, we'll get it. Skyrim players, on the other hand, could possibly look at this and be like, "Where's my Skyrim? Like, is this it?
This isn't Skyrim." Yeah, you're right.
And that's my question: is do you think the console players, the Skyrim players, are actually going to understand that this is not their next Skyrim that is going to hit the market, or are they thinking that they're now taking it online and they're expecting that, because it's not that?
As long as you don't have ZeniMax repeatedly saying things like, "Well, it's more of a Skyrim multiplayer than an MMO." Because I think that we talked about last week, that I'm hoping that's not something that's going to be repeated a lot, and something that's an actual marketing avenue, because it's not. It's an MMO, but for an MMO version of Elder Scrolls World, I think it does a pretty good job. And it feels like that. But yeah, if you've just played Skyrim and you're not an MMO player, it will feel different to you. It's through an MMO filter, and that will make it seem different to you, I think.
Now, why do you think? Because we both agreed at the beginning when we heard the PS4 announcement, we both looked at each other and were like, "Wow, that makes a lot of sense." And I think for me, it made more sense about their marketing messaging of how they're sort of trying to describe it and talk about it. not
Yes.
necessarily in game design and mechanics.
Yes.
I'm still not totally sure why. Like, why would so are we missing something that some of these like things about like, groups being broken up and split up, is that going to work any better on a console? I mean,
Well, no. My only thought is, it is as again like with an MMO. Usually, what you have this world, and nowadays with modern MMOs, it's a world in which most of it that there is available to you, you can do on your own or in a group, and you can do all this stuff together. I'm still not sure about the choice of making it so each part of that story moving forward has no group decisions based in it. That's something that I'm not sure whether that is a move.
unless they believe the majority of their players are going to be like Skyrim players who are used to a single player game and going to play 99% of Elder Scrolls Online completely by themselves, and you're just going to see people running by being like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! I see like real people." But I don't really have a ton of reason to like hang out with them. Like I'm just going to see.
Sure,
them.
I think that might be that's precisely why. I think it's because, and the reason when I said in that sense, it makes perfect sense about the console, going to console. I think that's the exact type of player that the console market is leaning more towards. It's like the MMO on the console isn't yet as pronounced as it is on PC. So if you go for console, having your game with the expectation that people can group together, there are going to be dungeons you can go to, there are going to be guilds and things like that. There is going to be that social aspect, but the core part of the game isn't something that's basically set up around the idea of social grouping. It's about your story against Malag Bal, and you're finding all the quests and everything that lead up to that, and it's essentially the center of the game is a single player concept with the multiplayer aspects of it kind of to the side there if you want to explore.
And that makes me come up with like a couple questions and ideas what you think. First of all, like obviously neither of us can answer this, but can they fill an MMO size world with that level of Skyrim writing and lore and just cool stuff? Or like when does it really just become kill 10 rats? Like do we get all of those crappy quests because you're not really so used to that? I mean, there's kill like some random stuff in Skyrim for sure.
There's already I've already played on the demo session. I already did. I killed some of these and get so many of these drops off. I do those quests already.
So my next question is, what did you think? What was your opinion? Did you do this demo at E3? Did you play it here?
Yeah.
Now, is that any different than is that a difference in like area or scenario or anything different than you've done before?
No, it wasn't different. It was the same as the last one. Except the only difference is we started at level 5.
Okay.
We didn't start at level 1. We weren't in the very, very newbie bit. We're in the next part. So, yeah, we were started at level 5.
I mean, so here's my thing, right? Like we go. I'm really, really trying to be objective here. Like I really am because I don't want to slag. Like I really want to see Tesla be a great game, and I'm really looking forward to it. But
it's still in beta, and we know now it's in even earlier days than we were led to believe.
Even earlier, absolutely. Yeah. But when I walked away from this 30-minute demo, I kind of I was trying to process everything and play everything, but nothing really stood out. Like not even
socks was still firmly on your feet.
They didn't even, and what I kind of expected was like, I always talk about like, we're there, we've got 30 minutes, we're press. Blow me away.
You want it.
Like
exactly.
Draw me into some sort of scenario or something specific in this world, like even if I'm leveled up or something that at least I can walk away and have like some great story about to go talk about or write about. And I just didn't really have that. It was like,
if you're showing Guild Wars 2 off, for the first time, right? You show the world, and at some point, you try and have those players walk by as Claw of Jormag flies overhead. Yeah? Because you can go, whoa! And then end. Thank you very much, come back. Keep an eye out for what we've got coming in beta. Yes, that's what you think we do. But you're right, it was an MMO. We had some fun. We got some, these mobs we were supposed to tame and take back. We didn't. We ran them all the way into town and had players chasing us down trying to kill them because they didn't understand what was going on, because it's fun doing stuff like that. It was It was quite cool, and we were doing fiery reach back and forward, trolling each other. But it was an MMO set in a Elder Scrolls setting, and that was. But it wasn't. It wasn't something you're going to walk away and you go, "Do you remember that bit when that happened?"
Yeah, I don't have that moment. I don't have that moment.
No,
and I know I'm trying to watch chat room, and some people are going like, not every MMO has to have that big, but like, they want us there to talk and write about stuff.
Exactly.
Like they need to excite us a little bit. Like I've come back trying to give you as much detail as I can in 30 minutes, and it's just like, okay, your mobs are standing around, like in clusters. You're gonna hit them, and they're gonna die, and there will be loot, and you will level up.
When we would be able to fill lots of stuff is when we could start talking about all the things that are different to the MMOs that we already play.
Mm-hmm.
Name something that was different from the MMOs we already play.
There are. We've named them, but we're just very unsure of how they're going to work.
Yes, but we have, and it's they're there. But it's one of those sessions. It's difficult. They've got 30 minutes, and with an MMO, again, it's the other thing. It hasn't got a huge advantage with the genre. That having a focused little event is tricky to pull off in a certain way, and it certainly seems that if we've only seen like the first in any session, we've only seen pretty much the starting areas. You know that there's a lot of the game left to be built, because you would think like in this session we would have had a very limited area in maybe a higher area with something big in it. But the reason to us that it's not a wow fireworks going off sort of moment is because you're in basically starter areas, and everybody knows what MMO starter areas are like. They're not blow your mind places, because usually you're waiting to go up to higher levels to experience those. So
this is kind
we played 30 minutes of a starter area.
I'm gonna really admit
it was all right, but
it was all right. Yeah, I'm gonna admit this is kind of unfair. And Zenimax, I seriously apologize, but what I'm gonna say is even more unfair.
Oh,
but I have to kind of say this because this is all I could think of. I can understand sort of like why they're maybe like paying a little bit, not that they're not paying attention to the MMO crowd, but I think that they're trying to like get away from the MMO term, and they don't want to call it that. And they want to get the Elder Scrolls players into this game to see this. And like for them, this might be a completely new experience because maybe they've never played World of Warcraft. Maybe they've never played any of these games. So just experiencing that would be something new.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think that player would be more in line to play something like Destiny if Destiny was Skyrim, because Destiny to me looks like would be what co-op Skyrim would look like.
Yeah, it is exactly that.
And this is very much and who knows, maybe they got time to, but like I said, this is very much MMO. Like it's very MMO. Like I left there just going like, what's not MMO about this? Like I mean,
yeah, it really is. It's as I say, I feel that conversation that was had with Matt Firer is because it was just simply, hey, he's asked a question, he's answering it towards a very specific audience, and so he's speaking in that manner, and maybe it didn't quite come off in the way that it is all-encompassing to all players. But you can't say that it's not an MMO, because its systems, its appearance, the way that it functions, anybody who's an MMO player will sit in and feel very comfortable, because it'll be very familiar as an MMO, and you'll sit here and go, oh look, it's an MMO, and this looks like an Elder Scrolls world. That's cool.
Now we've got to sit and wait to see. I think for MMO players, for this crowd, I think what's really, I think when we're really going to get into the meat of it is when we start hearing about more Elder game stuff, like end game stuff. I want to know what the PvP is going to be like. I want to know what the high end sort of adventure zone stuff is going to be like, because again, for this crowd, when you play an MMO, we play it to get into big, large guilds and social groups, and like you said, take down big bosses. Like we haven't seen any of that
MMO's
stuff
advantage.
Yet. Right. Yeah. So. Okay. There you go. It's kind of a gray area. Like I said, it is. I don't.
And especially there's uncertainty, especially after doing that, there's uncertainty now because of the pushback to spring 2014. So we now know that the game that, what I played from the perspective of, and the recent session particularly, from the perspective of, this is going to be out 2013. they've got a lot of work to do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and now it's spring 2014.
Now it's 2014.
So.
You can take a deep breath. That combat's there's plenty of time for that to be tuned. It's an MMO. It's an MMO set in Elder Scrolls world. If that appeals to you, then this is a game that I think is going to appeal to you. If you are somebody who is a Skyrim person who doesn't play MMOs and says, I want my Skyrim multiplayer, I think that you are... I'm not sure what your reaction would be then.
Well, I think most of them, and here's the other flip side, is that I think a lot of those players will buy it and play it.
Definitely.
They're definitely, and maybe that's all that they need, right? Maybe they don't. You know, I know they plan on having all that Elder game and stuff like that in the adventure zones, but
there's going to be a ton of content for single player, and with for people who are into single player games and have a little bit of social aspect to it and a little bit of grouping on the side here and there. There's going to be like a ton of content with the 3 factions to unlock.
But again, the big question will be how much of it is crappy MMO content. Like, cause that's what I'm sick of. I'm sick of this in MMOs. Believe me, I am so tired. And this has nothing to do with Elder Scrolls. I'm sick of kill time. I know they have to. It's all filler. Like, it's like they get these quest lines and they go like, okay, we've got to we need to kill X number of minutes. Okay, we need to fill this zone with X number of mobs. With X number of and it's just the time sink, and that's all it is. And that's the thing I don't know if Skyrim players are going to be used to, because I think they're used to, like, I'm on an adventure, and Skyrim always feels like you're on this adventure and you are part of this. I don't know. Killing 10 rats, it's not so adventurous. I don't know. We got a lot of time. I think we have a lot of time for this thing to shape up. There's a lot of, like, the story aspect. There's a lot of stuff that's very optional. If you when you're going around, you'll see it highlighted the requests there. There's lots of them you just don't have to take. If you don't want to do those side quests, which I imagine a lot of them will be like the ones that you're talking about, you really don't have to take them. It's not necessary to take. So if you want to stick to just the main bread and butter storyline that's going to propel you as like the hero of this big story, I think you can do that. You really can do that. So the rest of it is more for completionists and people who want to sort of like want to get levels quicker or everything. But if you just want to play the story, play all the way through to the end for that faction, and there's going to be a ton of content if you enjoy that, and if playing the MMO kind of combat and the MMO feel of the game is not something that's too jarring. And who knows what that's going to feel like on a console? I hope that's the big question. All right, let's move on. Another game that I finally got my hands on, first time ever that I've ever played, is WildStar. Not many people even knew that they were actually at E3, but somebody kind of was like, "Hey, did you know WildStar is playable?" And I said, "Really?"
I said, "Hey, guess what? I got the heads up that it was going to be Alienware." Yeah.
Yeah, so they were over in the Alienware booth, literally on 2 laptops, like over in the corner. Like, nobody really even knew they were there. There was no sign, no nothing. So they were just kind of like totally just like really, really low key. They had a demo running. Almost. It was very stealthy. They had a demo running, which I don't know if this is true. Somebody tweeted at me after they saw our posts on Gamebreaker of the gameplay that may be an older build that we've seen before, maybe at PAX. I don't know. That's true. Not sure. First initial impressions, though. First of all, man.
Let me take a drink while you say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I love the art style.
Sorry. Yeah.
And so are World of Warcraft players. They're gonna love that art style as well. Because wow, like when you see it alive in front of you, and we've all seen the screenshots, but man, like it really, really, really feels like sci-fi World of Warcraft. Like but in a good way. In a really good, familiar way.
I've been very hesitant with that description that's been used, because I've been like I watch like the cinematics that have been produced are great. I love them. Go Chris Hennell, doing a great job, and the rest of the team. They're great and really funny, and yes, it's animated, but it's a very different style to World of Warcraft. And it was the first time I played the game, and we both it was like, yeah, actually, it does have that World of Warcraft feel to the world that we saw anyway, which wasn't a lot, I have to say. I didn't see.
No, we didn't get to see a whole lot.
No, but yeah, it was it did have that World of Warcraft sort of. But the other thing I'd say about it, the reason that's not a bad thing is the world was really good, like quite smooth, and it moved really well, and the design
Combat
looked
felt
good
really
and
well.
open.
Combat felt
the
really
combat,
good.
Yeah, it did. Combat felt, and that's even, and it also, I was even playing it on, and I hate playing on a laptop, by the way,
Yeah.
especially with like with a bit of a crappy half broken hand that I'm playing with at the moment, like, but it still felt good, and I really liked the telegraph system. Well, I was playing the Spellslinger, Cassian Spellslinger, because Cassian's rock, and it was really good, and I really enjoyed it. And got into like this event thing where I had to kill like smaller bosses, and it was fun.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is, like you said, first time I played it. Almost to dovetail with Elder Scrolls, almost the opposite feeling of being dropped into it. Not in the sense of like, I didn't have like some monumental, crazy, awesome moment in WildStar where I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't really have that. But like, there were so many things going on as far as like systems and this. And it was like, all right, you've got a quest. You just walked over here. Your phone's ringing. Hey, you got another quest. Yeah. Oh, and you're an explorer. Oh, this just opened up. Maybe you want to go find this. And I was I was almost right, and I was almost a little overwhelmed, and I had to ask them, I'm like, what am I doing? Like what? Like, there's so much going on. It's like they are just firing things at you to do, and then like when you're into combat, the telegraph system. So it's like it's almost the opposite. It's kind of funny because I almost felt like it was the opposite. Like, a lot of games are trying to like strip down and get really clean, and I almost feel like WildStar is just like, we're just gonna keep just bombarding you with
things at you.
Here's everything. Here's quest. You thought you only picked up one quest. You're wrong. We're gonna give you 5. Like, on your way to the quest, you're gonna get like 5 more, and you didn't even know it. And then it's like, oh, you're an explorer. Here's 3 more.
See all this on the map? Well, you're going to walk over here and suddenly there's more now, and it doesn't matter because it's great. And it really was. I was like, I don't even know what that is. I can't look at that because I've only got a limited time, and I'm going to stick with what I'm doing. Oh, look, there's something else. I'm going to stick with what I'm doing. I felt like I was like having some serious like ADHD. Like, sort of by the time I finished, I'm like, what's going on?
It was serious ADHD.
There's a ton of content being thrown at you constantly as you're moving around. And I mean, I like that. I think it's a good thing. But it's like, if you're just walking in and trying to figure out what's going on, it can be a bit of a bombardment. Mm-hmm. But I do think what it shows you is they're not skimping on content. They want to make sure you've got something to do all the time.
So what did you think of now that you've actually like had hands-on with the telegraph system? And we were in like a brand new level 1 newbie zone, right? So we're like just experiencing the first stuff. But what did you think now? Because a lot of players, are like, do I want to just be staring at things on the ground to play the game, or should I be like, what was your takeaway now that you've actually kind of felt the combat?
I thought it was actually really intuitive. I had no problem at all picking up what was going on. It's like, oh, okay, it's about to hit me. I need to move now. And it was a double tap. There was a bit of a problem that if you're doing a jump and moving, sometimes you double tap and some weird stuff happened. But that was for me because I was playing on a keyboard and my hands weren't working very well at the time, I think. But I just thought it worked really quickly. It just made sense straight away. I didn't have to sit there and there. There was no transition for me from starting playing it to realizing what I needed to do. I just knew right away, and it was just a case of understanding what skills work best for what situation. And I had to figure that out.
But what did you think about like mobs, actually telling you like what they were going to sort of do? Like, it's this, you're almost watching the red on the ground more than you are watching the mob.
That is true. Yeah, it is. That is true. I did find myself coming across some mobs and they'd have like a semi-oval telegraph out in front of them, and as soon as you see that, you're not looking at the mob, you're looking at where you're expecting the telegraph to be. So that does happen. There is that kind of
There is that. But my question is, did you really dislike it? I kind of didn't mind it at all. Like, it felt like a different kind of game to me. Like that, it felt unique, and I was like, I'm okay with this. Like, I'm not. Usually, I'm more about stripped down. Like, I always say, like, man, I can't wait to like when MMOs get to the point of like dead space. There's just nothing on the screen, which I do. Right, I want that as well. And this kind of caught me off guard because normally, looking at it, I always kept in the back of my head. I'm like, man, I wonder. Like, this is also, I hate like meters, and I hate all kinds of like add-ons that do meters because I hate looking at stuff. Like, to me, gaming is not about like watching a meter. You know, like I don't want to watch that stuff.
We don't want to be fighting our spreadsheet and watching one.
I want to actually kind of be engrossed in the world, and that's kind of in the back of my head before I got my hands on WildStar. I was like, man, I wonder, that's going to be the one thing for me that I wonder if that's going to be a turnoff for me as the way with the games that I like. And I have to say, it really wasn't. It actually was kind of fun. Like, it was like, I don't want to say it was like a mini game, but it made the you know, not doing raid style bosses where you're learning mechanics. It made it feel like they were out in the open world, kind of doing that a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And what it meant was, and which is the whole point of it, is they can add some complexity to what's being done because they give you the information on it so quickly and easily. There's this iconic. They're using iconography basically to make you understand what's about to happen, and so because of that, they can have some more complex stuff. Some of the basic mobs could be quite they're not overly difficult, but quite challenging. But that's because they can get their information to you quickly. I mean, let's face it, in MMOs, like even MMOs that haven't got telegraphy, you usually get some big glowy things about going off when you're about. I mean, Elder Scrolls does that. When a basic mob's about to land a big attack, it's like these lines come off it to say, hey, something bad's about to happen. With that, it's just another version of that. And what it is, because it becomes such second nature so quickly, it doesn't feel like it's immersion breaking because it's just part of the world and it's just how you read everything. So yeah, it's not, to me, it didn't get in the way of enjoying the game at all, and in fact it became really natural just so quickly. So I think it works really well.
Yeah, I walked away from a pretty good amount of. I actually played through their demo, which is 25 minutes long, about 4 or 5 times. So I got a decent amount of time with it. I walked away from it really excited. I walked away from it excited for a few different reasons. I walked away, first of all, the devs and everybody. You guys are awesome. Like, they're super cool people. Very humble. Nice, yeah. They're very humble, and I'm. This is my total speculation. This is nothing from any of them said, so don't like try and twist this, but I get the feeling that they're just being very humble about the game as far as like, and I wonder if that's going to even translate over into like their expectations on like subscribers and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that they're like thinking that they're going to like take over World of Warcraft.
They honestly didn't expect. Like,
they were surprised that they were surprised that I was at this laptop being like, can I shoot this like 3 or 4 times? And they're like, okay, like, sure. Yeah. And I was like,
they didn't they honestly did not, and I know this because one of the devs told me. They didn't expect like there to be many people playing it that day. It's like, it's nice Alienware to let us like bring our game here today. Isn't it nice? And I stand there chatting with some of the devs, and I ended up chatting with Tiffany Chu. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And we're just having a really nice conversation about the game. And what do you think? Isn't that nice? And people like were lining up and they started playing, but they really weren't expecting like a huge thing. I mean, let's face it, they'd have had a booth if they did, but they weren't expecting a massive reaction to it. They weren't expecting like to have people queuing up to play. And it says, suddenly people were lining up, so we better stay here and make sure everybody's okay and knows what they're doing and everything.
Yeah, so, I left the booth. I left the booth extremely excited to see, hear, want to play more WildStar. I definitely left there going like, I'd really like to get my hands in this game.
I want to play. The thing is, I want to play.
Please get press in at this
PC.
Point. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to play it on a full PC.
Yes,
let's get press.
Let's just say, by the way, I have said that a few times to certain people at NCSoft. Can we get press now, please? I'm really looking. I want to play it on a system that, because the laptops were great. I mean, I'd love one of those laptops. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not somebody who likes playing on a laptop. I want my Logitech. I want my mouse with my number buttons on. That's how I want to play. So, and I want to see more of the world. But that's good. After seeing that, I really want to see more of the world. I want to see what they do. I want to play. I want to start building stuff. I want to, get into the system. So that's great. But they've passed the first thing. The combat feels really nice, and I think that the system for the telegraphs and everything works exactly as marketed. So that's great.
It's hard to say again. My gut, and this is totally like a gut thing. I feel like, and again, I'm at a conference or playing on a laptop. It's really hard to feel like I dialed in. My gut tells me that the combat could be dialed in a little bit with like
Just a touch.
I don't want to say lag. Like, I mean, I'm talking now like millisecond lag. Like I'm talking like I can't tell if this is laggy because it's not laggy, but there's something about it that I'm like, there's a couple frames or something that need to be like tightened up a little bit. But overall, it's like, wow, it felt awesome. The abilities were super cool, like the kick, the knockback. And on top of that, I don't know, we have a show about this. We can talk about this for hours. But the personality in the game is just awesome. And it starts right off with the characters, like the quest givers that you're talking to, fully voiceover, awesome, just like humor and funny writing, like all that stuff. I found a jumping puzzle. I don't know if you found that.
Cool. I didn't.
Yeah,
I know. I was too busy sacrificing pigs.
I failed really, really badly. Like it was so hard. I just couldn't even do it. I was like, all right, screw that. Actually, you know what maybe we'll post it. I have one more. We posted 2 parts of a WildStar video up on GameBreaker TV with a bunch of like playthrough stuff. I actually have more than that. And one of them, I guess we probably should post. People are like, post it. I think we got to actually see something no one else has seen. So basically we found an area that at one, we saw a vista of an open area with some UFOs and things like this flying around. And then basically it was like, forbidden zone, you were going to die. 5, 4, 3. And it's like, dead. Can't go any further. But we have it on tape. So maybe we'll put that out so you guys can see it. So I don't think anyone has seen that. Looks really good. Super excited. Can't wait to check out more. All right. I want to talk about Destiny, but first I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Squarespace. So if you guys have not checked out Squarespace, you have to check it out. You guys got a website, a blog. You probably need one in this day and age if you don't have one. If you have a guild, you definitely need a website, right? You need an events, you need a calendar, you need all that kind of good stuff. I'm telling you guys, check out Squarespace. Forget all those other junky, crappy, like website building things that just look like they're from 1985 in GeoCities. Like Squarespace, you can make a website that looks completely new and fresh and like it was built in 2013. Their templates are fantastic. They're actually award-winning templates. They just look so super clean and modern, and you can do anything on the back end with them. If you do not have any experience making a website, I seriously guarantee you can build an amazing looking website with Squarespace because it's all so intuitive and it's all, there's a whole editor, which is, I guess you would call it a WYSIWYG sort of editor where, I want to change that font size. Do you have to know HTML? No, you just change the font size. You want to move that border? You need more padding on there? Do you have to know how to change padding in HTML? No, you can just move that slider and change padding. So it is really super cool. And for those of you out there who may have some web design skills and some coding skills, the new engine that they built Squarespace on, which was coded not that long ago, it's a pretty new engine, has all those hooks in there for you. So you can really get in there and access all the code, write your own code, stick it in here, and start doing some really, really sick custom work. This right here, the social stuff that Squarespace has put in is phenomenal. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, gals, maybe make YouTube videos and things like that and post stuff. Maybe you want a site that you can just like post up your videos. They make it so super easy to like social your stuff in and out, post things super fast, post it out to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Check it out today. I want to get you guys 10% off on your account. You're just going to go over to squarespace.com. They have a free 14-day trial. I believe it's 14-day. Yes, it's 14-day trial. And I want to get you guys 10% off. All you got to do on your checkout is use the offer code GameBreaker6. You're just going to put that code in and immediately get 10% off. Go check it out. It really is the best service out there. Let's talk a bit about Destiny, sir. So we saw the demonstration during the keynote. I actually had a meeting with Destiny, but another meeting went long and we missed it and we couldn't get in. But then I felt a little bit better because I ran into one of the Destiny developers outside of the booth, and we were sort of like, man, we missed our meeting and we're kind of bummed we couldn't get in and see it. And he was, well, honestly, the pretty much the demo was what you saw from the keynote, and then we give you a shirt. So go see games. Go see games, pretty much.
Pretty much.
But what do you think? What do you think now that you've seen Destiny? Because I've got I don't want to say mixed feelings on it, but I guess from the demo, I expected a bit of a like, holy effing crap moment again. And I didn't get that. I felt the demo that they gave was, you did? I felt the demo was I felt the demo was a little overacted and a little bit set up, and it was very obvious that it was set up. And to me, it felt a little cheesy. Like the game didn't, the acting
No, you're
made
right.
it.
You're right. I completely ignored that. Like, I was sitting in the room, and he was like, "Hey, come on, you with it, and I'll take the flank. Okay, I'll do that too." You know, it was that kind of. It was very kind of staged, but I just ignored it. I just completely ignored it and just watched the game, and the game looks amazing.
Well, the environments and the world itself look phenomenal. Art direction looks great.
When they started off the demo, like what you'll have seen, I think, is that the entrance to the city is the start of it, and the walk inside. What he did, he stopped and goes, "Okay, let's look over here," and he turned around and showed you the valley, behind it, and the valley is just stretches on for miles and miles and miles and miles. He goes, "Look, that's not a skybox. That's all there, and it's going to be full of content and full of adventure, full of stuff for you to go and get killed by, and all the rest of it. It's going to be teeming with things to do, but that's not ready yet. So let's go to this now." And they're going to this Russian city. And yes, I ignored all of the "hey, good job" and all that sort of thing. Just forgot about it. Watch the game. The game looks fantastic. It looks great.
Okay, but break it down for me.
When they opened up the public event, it was when they opened the public event, and then you get all the sort of like speeder pike style, like people zimming past like into this event, and you see it all coming together with that, and then the big dropship comes in, and the like six-legged thing.
Okay, but let me ask you from so beyond the art direction, because all that stuff visually looks awesome. Why are you so blown over by that? We've seen public events in Rift, we've seen public events in Guild Wars, we've seen drop ships drop things in, like we've seen things in MMOs that like this all the time.
Not looking that saucy, not looking that like awesome. And also, then you get like as soon as it picks up, being in the room when they started firing off guns, and this is one of the issues Defiance has, is when you fire a gun, it's like at times, and it feels a bit. With it, as soon as they picked up a gun and started like hails of bullets, and like,
well, come on, man, they made
feel.
The guys made Halo. They definitely know how to dial in
exactly.
guns. That's
but that's
for
what
sure.
I mean. They know how to do it. These are you're talking a shooter in like, but that's like saying, okay, what's the special? It's the shooter by the people who know how to make shooters. It's set in a world that looks incredible. The art design is fantastic. The one bit where they come through and like there's a background explosion and everything falls down and everything. Of course, that's just but that's the background. But it all just comes together and looks phenomenal. Like everything, what got to me was how smooth everything moved. Like it was on a PlayStation 4, which I was, to be honest, surprised me how good it looked. I did not expect it to look as good as it did. I didn't expect it to move as smoothly. I barely saw anything in regards to sort of like frame rate drops or anything like that, even when there's quite a few on the screen. It just looked great. Honestly,
No. I agree with all that stuff. I guess after watching the demo and stuff, and I'm trying to watch chat, and there's a couple of things that people brought up in there, and some things that I thought. I mean, again, I think it looks gorgeous, right? I'm trying to figure out though. Really, what are the systems? What's happening here that's making it super, super special and unique? Like, what is the big difference between this and Borderlands 2?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that this is like incredible.
Is it going to have walls all over the place? Are we going to be bumping into walls and loading screens all over? Like, hey, we're going to drop into this mission and we do this mission.
Well, that's
I may
not
be okay
what's
with
been.
that's
But that's
what I'm
not.
trying.
But as I said, when he turns around and says, "See that whole valley there? Basically, that's for you to go explore. Like that's all there. That's not a skybox. That's just like that's not bits. That whole valley's there for you to go into. We can't. But that will be there.
How big is that landmass /world, that area, and how many other people are in that doing that?
Sure.
Or do we or that's the thing, like when you come out and there's the public event, is that when we see other players and encounter random people?
I think that's pretty much
not
it, yeah.
do we not see them in those other places? Is that like a single player but multiplayer co-op experience, and then
that's why this isn't a full out. That's why it's not a full MMO.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. I just have so many questions because I'm just like I don't fully understand what it is yet. It's like this weird hybrid.
From what it seems like, you're gonna be running through this huge world. And you're going to come across parts where basically having other players around you is going to be something that's going to be necessary for that, whatever it is you're doing. And then they will basically become part of that sort of phase that you're playing, that world that you're playing at the time. So it'll be kind of on the fly. You'll have co-op, and then it'll be on the fly multiplayer, and then it'll shrink back in again when that's not needed, essentially. So it seems like it's a system that sort of like expands and contracts depending on what you're doing.
So do you think, putting your speculation hat on for a moment, do you think like this is going to be almost like a traditional Halo or something where there's a full story arc, beginning, middle, end, and it's literally going to end, and of course they'll add more content to it, but unlike an MMO, it's not going to be this real living, breathing virtual world to live in. Like, I guess we haven't seen anything like with we don't know if there's like a really robust crafting system or an economy. Like, we don't really know like if those kind of mechanisms exist where people are going to carve out a life for themselves in Destiny, or it's going to be like, Scott, Brian, let's jump on, like, let's go do some stuff and explore some of the world, and we're just going through, which I'm totally cool with. Believe me, I'm just trying to understand it. I just don't think it's going to have all those other things.
Well, this is pretty much the kind of vanguard for the first, not vanguard, the MMO. I'm not saying that. This is kind of the first step in there, breaking the first ground on this type of trying to do. It seems to be doing a kind of persistent world that is single player and multiplayer focused, and then has additional MMO elements added in. Like, imagine an MMO world within where most of the time it's just you, but then it can be you and your friends. World. Yes, and then it expands into like your sphere of socializing expands at times where it's needed. And it seems like this and The Division are the first steps into doing that kind of world, one that we haven't really had before.
No,
so it's difficult to kind of.
This could be. Possibly, still limited scope. This could be the game Gary Gannon has always been looking for.
Exactly.
This could be it. Like, I'm asking questions, but this literally could. This is because that's why I'm asking so many questions. Because when I play games like Fallout or Skyrim there's always a point in the game where I'm like, man, I'm having so much fun. I wish I could do this with a friend of mine and like talk.
Exactly. And many times I've been playing the game with a friend. Like, I've been playing the game. And another friend is playing the same game, and we're on Skype talking about our individual experiences. And I'm like, I wish we could just be standing side to side on the screen. And this is the first kind of step in the game that is looking to be doing that, and not just in just that multiplayer way, but with a persistent world. Hopefully, not absolutely sure on that yet, but with a world that feels living, and that will have other people involved in it. But by doing it where it's not just an MMO at all times, they can do different things when it comes to things like the graphics, with things like the sort of moment-to-moment action, the smoothness of things like that. That this is kind of the bridge between MMO and single player. Basically, this is the middle ground between that uses aspects of MMO and aspects of single player and multiplayer.
Which is weird. Which is kind of what Borderlands tries to do to some extent.
To a degree. No, but Borderlands is just a multiplayer game.
Yes. So
I'm saying single player with multiplayer aspects. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I don't know. I'm just, more info. We need more info. All right, you mentioned The Division, the one game at E3 that I'm completely bummed that I did not get to see behind closed doors.
Same here.
I fought tooth and nail to try and get into that meeting, and The Division seemed like this year's Watch Dogs. Last year when they debuted Watch Dogs, I immediately, the day they had the keynote, they did Watch Dogs, they had the keynote, floor opens up, I book over because there's always some representative there from the company, and I booked over there, and I'm just like, we need a meeting with Watch Dogs. And they were just like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. They were like, we are completely booked. The same thing happened with the Division. Like I got there, like first thing when they opened, they were just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. They're like, you can try and come back on the last day and we'll see, but probably not. So what was, so you didn't get to
I
check
did
that
one of Zam's sales one of our sales guys, our head of sales, Kevin Wallace, after the first day came to me, have you seen the Division? And I went, no, why? He went, you need to see the Division. You really need to see the Division. With this kind of like strange hunger in his eyes that disturbed me. And I said, okay. So I kind of went around, and it was difficult to see anything, wasn't it? It was in this like circular booth that you couldn't really see much, and I couldn't get to see it. And we got so many meetings. I had no time. I'd already had to turn down 5 meetings, and so there's no way I could get to see it. So then after he told me about that, I looked up online and I was like, oh my god, this looks a bit good.
So what's your takeaway on this? What kind of a game is this? What do you think it's going to be doing? Because there's a lot of different opinions on it.
It's mental. It's hard to be absolutely sure, but again, this seems like another game like Destiny that is going to be bringing you that solo and multiplayer experience that, like, as a shooter, and it looks amazing. There's a bit where they're pinned down behind. I saw the pinned down behind like police cars, and you can see the bullets, single bullets come through the panes of the glass and shattering. They're hiding, and then they're opening doors. It looks amazing. For anybody who doesn't know what it is at all, the idea is that this terrible virus has basically wiped out most of the planet, and it basically goes through the steps of what would happen if this happened. And you're set in New York, and it's just this post-apocalyptic nightmare, and it looks so realistic and also so just eye-bulgingly good that it really was like probably the surprise of the show. I think that, as you said, that it just looks great.
I agree. What I couldn't really figure out is, like, how is the multiplayer and other people going to come into this thing, and how does that all work?
Areas.
Are they areas? Like, some people are speculating it's going to be a little bit APB-ish. If you guys are familiar with APB, some people are speculating that. Other people, like, I've heard the DayZ reference kind of being thrown around a bit, and it's really hard to say how you're going to encounter those other players and see those. So they bring up like a map and they kind of go like, hey, we see some action kind of going on over here. Let's go over to that area. And then they seamlessly just go over to that area, and then there are other players there. Now, that's the big question. Are all of those players on a server world? Do they dynamically somehow, get phased in when you're getting near that area? Like, that was where it broke down for me, where I'm just like,
I'm not sure.
But the game has this very post-apocalyptic, empty feel that reminds you, like, the only thing I could say, like DayZ, right? Like, where it's like, the part of the allure of those games is that, like, man, it's kind of quiet. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Did you hear that? There's
eerie.
gunshots off there's gunshots off in the distance, and it's got that feel. But again, if the areas are just populated with lots of players, that will break down completely. So it's not a game. It doesn't look like a game that you're just going to see players running all over the place around. It looks like you're going to be like with you and a few of your buddies, and it's going to feel very isolated. And then you're going to go and do certain things.
I think you're going to be interacting with other players. I mean, there's not NPCs around, of course, but you're going to be interacting with other players at like certain junctions, not literally, but at certain points you're going to be interacting with other players, and then other times you're not. In a way, said like Destiny kind of does that, but Destiny's bringing other players in for you to do like PvE stuff together. Where it seems, although I've sort of gathered from what I've seen of Division, is that as you're moving around, there'll be areas where suddenly you'll be up against other players, and so for you, you'll be matched up seamlessly without you really seeing it in certain areas against other players.
It sounds like it's going to be something along the lines of, it's difficult to really explain and tell. It looks like you and your friends are going to say like, hey, we're going to go do this in this district. Other players will then know you're going to sort of be flagged, for PvP or killable, and then they can kind of like the opposition in the PvP ensues, and they're sort of like trying to stop you. How that's all going to work, I don't know if we know yet, but it looks really,
No,
really
it
interesting.
looks great.
It looks really
Looks
cool.
really good.
Next up, so we talked about that. DayZ. Got to do an interview with Dean Hall and it showed off the standalone version of DayZ, which I gotta say, I had to chuckle after the fact because like after the interview, I'm just like, he's kind of a madman. He's crazy. Like let's just say he's nuts.
Crazy, yeah.
He's nuts because I mean, climb Mount Everest for 2 months and like he's. I'm like,
and then he wants to make a mountain climbing game.
Yeah, that might be his next one. I know, but
no, he already says he does want to do.
Yeah, I know. That's why he's like a method developer. That's what we've figured out. What developer would ever in their right mind show a pre-alpha version of their game at E3 with like effed up animations and like he's just like
standing next to a demo of Armor 3.
Yeah, which looks
phenomenal, which looks crisp, beautiful, and the rest of it. And then next to it, you got DayZ, which is like, well, that UI looks a bit unfinished, and that doesn't look very polished, and those animations.
Wow, those animations are really bad and broken, and just.
Oh look, he's just vaulted before the fence and then passed through it. It's
you know what though, I absolutely love the transparency. Like it is so refreshing to see somebody with a set of balls that are just like on the showroom floor being like, yeah, that's broken. We couldn't get that fixed, but here you go.
You know.
I think standalone's going to be really good. I think he was underselling it the entire time. He says in the interview, go back and listen to it. He tells you in the interview about 5 times that you probably shouldn't buy it. Like wait for it to like come out or like don't get in the alpha. And we're done. I'm like, you're like telling people not to try this game. And he's just like, well, and again, being brutally honest, he's like, look, DayZ is like this phenomenon hit that like, struck a chord and it did something like, very visceral and really tapped into something that a lot of players liked. And he's like, then when we started working on the standalone version of it, we have tons of ideas, right? And we want to kind of make this more of an MMO and build it on an MMO engine and be able to do things that like DayZ just couldn't really do. It sounds as if they started overloading standalone with a lot of ideas and concepts and things that were much far beyond like what DayZ was at first. But the problem was, and again, kudos to them for realizing this, it was like, I think they came to a realization around, he said somewhere around December, that if they didn't get the core of what DayZ was all about and that emotional, visceral feel that they hit the first time, if they don't have that,
don't bother.
Then all that other stuff doesn't matter. So they've got nothing. So they pulled a lot of that stuff back and a lot of those ideas that they want to get to, they've kind of stripped them out and they pulled them out. And that's why he says, I think a lot of players actually might be angry with standalone because they're thinking that like, there's going to be all this new stuff. And he's like, no, it's going to be DayZ. Like
it's going to be DayZ, but it's going to be a lot harder to hack it. There's going to be a lot less of that sort of issue because it's going to go from client to server and all the rest.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of technical things that they're working on. They're going to be a lot better. They're adding in a lot of items, crafting and things like that. But again, I don't know. I just got a tip to have because I mean, there's like being that transparent and not afraid to just because I mean that's like other game companies would never
ever. There'd be a PR person who would be sitting there making notes, and their laptop would explode next to them as soon as anyone said anything like that. They really would.
I think it's because he knows that this type of game really has, it stems so much from the community of understanding what they want and what they're experiencing. And that's how they have to develop this kind of a game. And it's almost like this, not a trial and error, but I don't know. I can't wait to play standalone. I think, a lot of the new mods that are out and stuff right now, when people are playing, what's the big one? Is that Breaking Point?
Breaking Point, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking at a lot of stuff like that because it did a lot of really good things. And, it's going to be interesting. I can't. Hopefully, it's hopefully.
But the main thing is if they can go from 50 to 150 players on each server, which is what they're aiming at, I think that'll do a lot for the game.
And for all of you DayZ fans out there, you might want to go back and watch. We've got full 1080p footage of in-game of the standalone client, and I don't know about what the timestamp mark is, but there is an oil tanker, which it's funny because when they like. This is another thing. Like when they put things in the game, it's like it's so strategically thought about, and like one thing is put in the game, so that this oil tanker is a big deal for DayZ players. I think it's a big deal, And we have footage of it. I don't know if anybody else really does. I'm not sure if it's out there. It might be, but I know we had it. He showed it off, and basically, they're sort of testing out areas like this that could kind of become like player forts, and like they think people might like take this thing over because there's different rooms and stuff. So if you guys are big DayZ fans, I know for the non-DayZ fans, they're like, why is an abandoned oil tanker like cool to look at? And DayZ fans are like looking for it right now, like scrubbing through, going like, "Where's the oil tanker? Where's the oil tanker? I gotta see it."
So first, he'll have a medic group. He'll have a medic group. Right, we're going there now. Right, that's it. Okay, he'll be defensible. Oh my God, he's gonna have supplies and be defensible.
You're gonna want to hold ridiculous. It. People are gonna want the oil tanker. So go check it out. Final Fantasy XIV had a pretty big showing over at the Square Enix. Square Enix booth was awesome and big. So lots of kind of exciting news coming out. You know, Kingdom Hearts Versus were their big two things, and now we've got to see XIV and their big thing. They got some next beta phases going on right now, actually this weekend.
Yes, it is.
Did you get your hands on? Did you get hands on time with the Final Fantasy? What did you think?
Yes. I wish I wasn't playing on the PlayStation 3.
Oh, you played on the PlayStation 3. Yes, I played on the PC. I watched Mike Shaftnet play on the PlayStation 3, and this is a very it's either hit or miss of who likes this and who doesn't. So I may or may not know somebody else who's playing on it. I
know somebody who's playing in beta. I am.
I know some. Well, I know somebody.
No, I've been given permission. I'm not breaking. I have permission to talk about the current beta. So
okay, then I'll talk about it as well. But one of our guys.
I don't know if you do, but I have.
I love you guys. We'll talk good. One of our so I didn't play with the Mike Shaftnet was playing with the controller on the showroom floor and was just like all thumbs. Was like, what? How do I target?
To explain the PlayStation 3 controls, right? What happens is to get to a hotbar, you hit left trigger, and that opens up the left side of what you would have as a hotbar, the first few, and then you either use the directional buttons or the other buttons on the right to select it. So you're gonna have trigger, and then hit that, and then hit that, and then if you want to hit the right side of the hotbar, you go right trigger, and then you go to press either the directional buttons or the other buttons on the right hand side. We did this event, and you had to fight Ifrit, or Ifrit as I call it, but it's Ifrit apparently, because it's French. No. And I was tanking. I was like, I'll tank. They said we need a tank. I was like, I'll tank. I love tanking. I'll go tank. And it was impossible because I'm right. Okay, hold down right trigger and then hit the buttons to get my attacks off. That's great, but I can't see where his AOE is because I can't adjust the camera because then I've got to use my thumb to move the camera on the stick, and I can't. And it really, really annoyed me. And there was a lot of frame rate drop, and there was a lot of jittering around. Suddenly, the creature I'm fighting is gone because it's moved 2 feet, and now I can't see it anymore. And then I've got to adjust the camera. It was aggravating.
Yeah,
really annoyed.
Shaftnet shares your pain. He was getting very aggravated as well. I gotta say, if people watching this show is also, I mean, if you own a PS3 and you're a PC gamer and you're an MMO player, you're gonna want to take a hard look at the graphics quality as well.
Yes.
The PC version just absolutely looks gorgeous. It blows away. It blows the PS3 out of the water. I mean, it's gonna come on PS4, so who knows what that's going to look like? Which I'm sure that.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Yeah, that was a surprise. But now, so Shaftnet fumbled with it. You obviously couldn't stand it.
I did.
We have another person here on the Game Breaker crew, initials maybe MB, who is a huge Final Fantasy fan, who plays many an MMO, who's been playing on a controller and loves it. He loves it. He's like, I hooked up the controller and he's just like, it feels totally fine. He's really enjoying it with the controller on a PC, mind you. He's playing. I mean, that's no different. I think on the control scheme. So it looks as good as the PC version, but his control scheme, Now, I do not think, I could be wrong, but I do not think he has experienced any kind of like major boss battles or things like that, which is what we got to do on E3.
That was. When you go to something, when you're facing Ifrit, he's dropping down AOE, so there's patches on the floor, of course, stay out of the fire. And I couldn't see the fire because I'd have to readjust my camera angle, but I couldn't because I was having to already use like this finger and my buttons or that. I'm already doing this, Now I've got to try and adjust the camera angle as well. And I broke my finger. It's not fair. I don't want to do that. No. So as a tank, he just drive me up the wall because you have to manage. As a tank, you got to manage your threat. You got to manage positioning. You got to figure out where everybody else is. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, it's the first. I only played it through twice. So of course, I'm not saying I'm an expert at it. I'm not. But I was just like, I wish I'd played this on a PC. I really did.
So you are in beta and you were allowed to talk about it.
I've only briefly because coming back from LA and everything else. Character creation I love.
So here's something I will say, and again, limited time, but I saw no end game, nothing like that. So don't start getting the pitchforks out. But I think I can go out on a limb and say this, and see if you agree. It is a completely different game than version 1.0.
I've only seen the videos and report. I never played the first version, but it is a completely different game. It is a completely different game. It looks great. Like, it looks great. The sort of atmosphere and everything, very Final Fantasy, feels really nice. It's except for the first part of it where I wish you didn't have to spend 30 minutes to get to the first, actual doing something.
Oh,
it's really weird.
A lot of reading.
It's really weird.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, if you want to get into watching characters talk for 30 minutes, that's one way to start your game, I guess. But no, it is. I think they've done. I think Final Fantasy fans who have been hoping for I think Final Fantasy XIV people who've been waiting for a much improved version of that game will be delighted.
Well, here's what's going to be interesting. Here's what I think is going to be very interesting about the game, because I'm actually here's a good time for comments leaving on the show. Here's the comment of This Week in MMO for this week. I want to see a lot of comments from Final Fantasy XI players, because I want to know what Final Fantasy XI players are going to think of this, because I think Final Fantasy people in general, if you're just a fan of Final Fantasy and you're a fan of MMOs in general, I think you're going to love it. Especially if you're fans so far, I'd say of more traditional MMOs of what we're used to.
Very much. The pacing of the combat and of just the game itself is a little more, it's a little slower, I think, than what you'll be used to in usual MMOs at the moment.
That was one of the very first things I brought up, actually, was the GCDs still felt a little slow, and the pacing, right? From what I understand, again, I did not get far enough into this, but from what I understand, that it really starts picking up the pace because the abilities are kind of unique that actually affect GCDs and cooldowns on other things. So when you start filling up those things, the pacing of the combat becomes it just changes over time. So I think that might be kind of an early level.
We've got sorry, I was just gonna say we've got a few of the ZAM staff who are playing at the moment because we're getting we're actually getting prep for content coming out, and I know a few of them who did not sleep last night because they were playing it all night and just. But
oh my god, what a difference! What a first initial experience difference, because I played the first one. All right, they're hopefully not gonna get mad at me. I'm playing the beta as well. So I played it yesterday for a couple hours. But yeah, you jump in, completely different game. Just completely different game in a good way. I was like, wow, this is all done, and Gridania looks gorgeous, and there's no copy pasta, and I can jump, and there's quests everywhere, and there's mobs to kill, and so it was just a completely different experience. And I think that's the one thing. Again, I don't want to go too far into it because I think everybody needs some more time on this one. But I'm going to say on the first initial reaction of how this game started, because I played version 1.0 for a decent amount of time, it is a different game. It is not hey, we just fixed some shit. It is they took the engine, I guess, because it kind of looks the same, and a lot of the art all looks like it's still set in there. But man, they just started over, everything.
And I think, as I say, I don't think it's going to be for everybody. MMO, I don't think every MMO fan's going to like it, especially with just the way MMOs are developing in the recent years. But I do think that there's a strong, from what I've seen so far, there's a solid MMO in there. And I think if you're a Final Fantasy fan, it's definitely going to be worth checking out. Definitely worth checking out.
I think the thing that we may or may not do a Final Fantasy show, but maybe
may or may not.
Maybe. I think the other thing that I'm really interested in seeing is they talked about that it's going to possibly get progressively harder and harder. Like I think it's going to come later in levels and stuff like that. So
I like, and we like the idea of those things, don't we?
yes, we do, and I think 11 players would be looking forward to that as well because 11 was a tough game, man. Like that's no joke. So I think that's why I'm curious to know what 11 players who are in beta think. I think you're actually allowed to talk about it now. People are telling me it's partially lifted. You're actually allowed to talk about the game. You're allowed to do limited screenshots, no video, no streaming, but you're allowed to do that stuff. So
okay, cool.
Let us know.
I was waiting for confirmation on video. So
yeah, I would love to know what people think and hear about this. But I have to say, I like what I see so far. I do. You know, I really like. All right, next up, let's talk about the crew. If you guys know what the crew is, the crew was Ubisoft, correct? Ubisoft, I believe. I think. Scott, was it? It was Ubisoft. Yes.
Yeah, it's Ubisoft. Yeah.
Car racing game with online stuff, and not just an online game. It's supposed to be MMO. You did not get to check it out. We got to see the trailer. I was kind of excited about it. I'm actually a big fan of racing games. And if there's a good car racing MMO game, I'm on board. I'll make this one quick. I got up there. I waited. I played it. I did the demo. I drove a car. It was against some people I was standing next to, and the end.
Okay.
They didn't really like get into, and to be honest, I don't think they could have on the showroom floor. Like it was at the Ubisoft booth, like out kind of like in the open. They weren't like in a closed room where it was somewhat quiet where they could kind of like really explain stuff to you. They couldn't really get into the intricacies of the online, the MMO portion of it, you know, like in the demo. You're going to be able to like customize your cars. You're going to be able to drive like, you know, in all kinds of different areas. I don't know. I know a lot of people are wondering about it, going like, is this going to be like really cool? I don't know I don't really get the whole MMO aspect of it yet. I don't really understand what the persistent world is, how that's going to matter at all. Beyond you're racing other people and you can.
It's going to be across the whole of the USA, so you can go from LA to New York.
Yes, and I know a lot of people are wondering, like, can you drive from point A to point B? And I believe they actually said you can. So if you want to drive from New York to Los Angeles and not zone in, you can do that. So that's going to be interesting. Are they all going to be like, you know, satellite accurate? No.
No, because you can apparently do it in about an hour. So unless you're traveling at like, you know, speed of sound. And
you're gonna go across. You're gonna do different missions. You're gonna have different races. Obviously, they're gonna have a bunch of different races. You're gonna be able to upgrade your car, all kinds of things like that. As far as like really where the persistent thing comes in, I'm not completely sure yet. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. And I was hoping to get that out of the demo, and I didn't. Next one up here, you got to actually check this out. I missed this one. Black Gold from Snail Games, the Age of Wushu peeps. Steampunky kind of fantasy game.
Steampunk versus fantasy is where it is. So you can pick either Steampunk faction, the Steam faction, or the Fantasy faction. And the thing that I got the intro and I got a demo, and I didn't get to play it myself. Didn't have time again. But what surprised me was they talked about the mechs. You can have mechs, or you can have if you're on the Steam side, or if you're on the Fantasy side, you can have these sort of like equated like creatures that can be like vehicles for you. And what I thought is they're just going to be like mounts, and you're going to have your mech, and you're going to ride mech, and you'll jump on your mech and walk around. But it's not their actual physical like persistent vehicles. If you want to store them, you're going to have like a garage to store them in. And if you take them out into the world, and if you get out of your mech, it just stays there. And you have to protect it because the opposition could steal your mech and scrap it for parts. And steal them and stuff like that. I'm like, ooh. And so basically, think the sandbox open world PvP of Age of Wushu, but with you've got mechs and gliders and stuff in them. Like that big floating, remember we talked about that city looks like the AT-AT, and somebody says it's an AT-AT. It might be, but I say AT-AT, so I don't care. That's walking around. Like if you've got a glider on the opposition, or you can fly, a creature, you can fly up and drop onto it and start fighting them and invading, and you can like attack them with it and stuff. So it's big open world PvP, And we saw mechs fighting, and they look quite cool. It's like, FPS. It's not quite sort of Hawken or MechWarrior Online level, but I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. I thought, oh, this looks like a lot of fun.
What are they talking any kind of release date or betas or anything like that?
Not really, no, not just yet.
Not just yet.
But not just yet. But yeah, it's actually I'm more keen to see more on that than I was before. So that was a nice one. So,
Cool. I imagine there's a website at least that people can go check out some information at this point.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Oh, there really isn't? Wow, I didn't even know that. I just brought that up because I'm like, well, if they showed it at E3, there must be something.
But no, it's coming. It's making steps. But no, I think it actually looks quite cool. The graphics look good. The sort of fantasy versus steampunk sort of side of it actually works quite well, and it gives a nice sort of contrast and customization to it. So yeah, I think it looks fun.
All right, I want to talk about EVR and ArcAge. They're both coming up. First, I want to tell you guys about Audible. That's right. Free 30-day trial, and I want you guys to get hooked up with a free audiobook. All you got to do is use the URL audible.com/gamebreaker. If you guys have not checked out Audible, it is audiobooks on your iOS device, your Android, whatever you got. You download the app, you put it on your phone, you get a free 30-day trial, and you get to download a free audiobook like this.
What's wrong with me, Jaina? Merely, well, I have a concern that I'd like to share with you. She frowned, a small crease appearing between her brows, and put the glass down. Me? Why me? I'm not one of the Council of Six. I'm not even a member of the Kirin Tor anymore.
I'm waiting
Once
for
she
Scott to
had
figure it
been
out.
working closely with her master, Antonidas. But after the Third War, when
We
the
could be
scattered
waiting a
members
while
of the
because
Kirin Tor
I just
had
got
been
just
formed,
my son's just there and I got distracted.
And this is precisely why it's you I must speak with.
Stop! You're spoiling.
Jaina, we've all endured so much. We've been so
Okay,
busy, fighting and planning.
I just started this, not too far into it, but this is Jaina Proudmore, World of Warcraft book, Tides of War, up on Audible by Christy Golden. It is awesome. It is really, really good and great narration. Check it out. This could be your free book today just by using that URL that I told you all about. So tons of other books as well. If you're into the fantasy thing, there's tons of good fantasy and sci-fi on here, but this is one I definitely recommend, whether you're a World of Warcraft like fan or not. Like, even if you're not, it's a really good book. Like, just from a fantasy perspective, even if you're not playing the game, doesn't really all that matter. It's actually a really, really good book. So go check it out, download it, go to audible.com/gamebreaker, sign up, make an account, get a free trial, and get yourself a free audiobook. You could be listening to it tonight. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Go check it out. Eve VR.
EVR.
Yes. People are like, what is that? So CCP gave us a behind closed doors demo. Actually, the entire demo is up on Gamebreaker TV in its entirety. Yes, it's dark. We know that. Thanks for the comments of realizing it's dark, but we are in a dark room that they do not allow the lights in because they're giving us a presentation. But you have it full, uncut, unedited, the entire demo that they gave us, which is a pretty high level overview of Eve, Dust, and FanFest, and a bunch of things like just CCP as a company. So that's up there. Go watch that. After the demo, they brought us outside, and they had, I'd say about 7 or 8 Oculus Rifts hooked up. The Oculus Rift, if you guys haven't seen it, is basically a head-mounted virtual reality style. They're not goggles because it's bigger than that. It's like, It's not a helmet because it's not like really a helmet, but it's like the thing you wear over your eyes. You put it on and it's got like, completely immersive, like 3D-ish and head motion tracking. Yes. And the head motion. And they have a demo of EVR running, which from what I understand, like was really put together somewhat quickly. And
it was part of the 20% time that Eve developers had, where as part of what CCP does is go, all right, we're going to give you 20% of your time to go and just develop things that, even though that you might be passionate about or you think would be really great to make, even though it might not be something that CCP would be wanting to be building right now to give their developers something to sort of like stretch their creativity and see where they can go. And EVR was this, and then they got into it so much that they were like, they're on a Sunday night, like doing sort of sessions over a weekend and all this sort of thing. We want to get it finished. We want to make this. So yes, it's a little passion project by basically CCP devs.
So what it is, it's set in the EVE universe, obviously, so it looks like EVE Online. It's not connected to EVE Online. It is like basically like dogfighting, yes, multiplayer shooting. But I have to say, so you put this on, you grab an Xbox controller, you're completely cut off from the outside world, and you move your head around and you're looking around space. And it was kind of weird when I looked down and saw my legs, and I was like,
and they didn't move when you moved.
I was like, oh, that's me. And really cool. Really, really cool experience.
Really cool.
I mean, first, I hope the Oculus Rift actually is a success and, really gets out there. And if it does, I really hope that CCP take EVR and actually take the ball and run with it. Because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a game, like, if you're going to release it just as is, it's not really full product yet. But,
no.
Like, you're sitting there, and before it launches, you're in a hangar, and like the dev was there, and say, yeah, okay, look up, and you look up, and you can see the hangar. Then you look over your shoulder, you can see through the sort of like rear mirror, and you can see the hangar. And then you see as you look down, you see your legs, and there's like the panels and stuff in the cockpit and everything. It looks great. But the best thing is when you launch, because when you launch, you're like, oh my god, and it's quite daunting. And there's a big carrier at the opposite side, ships coming out. And when they were within, the important thing is when they're within missile lock range, a red circle appears around them. And what you do is you hold down the left trigger. And what that does, it makes a grey reticule appear in the center of your vision. And to lock on, you look for them. So if I had one like high up above me, I would just look up, wait for the reticule to hit them, and then release after they're locked on, and the missiles would fly off.
Yeah.
And if someone fires missiles at you, you can look out the rear window and see the missiles coming at you, and use that to dodge where they're coming at. And it was just like, oh, this is forget roller coasters. This is what we want.
It's a really cool experience. I've done like a couple VR things with virtual reality where we put the big helmets on and stuff. And
yeah, me too.
This is like that, almost just done a lot better, a lot cleaner, and just having the idea of being able to actually
clunky. Yeah,
that's the thing. Be able to actually have this thing in your house is crazy, because they've always been at like these crazy events where it's this big gajillion-dollar machine, is a helmet this big.
And it's like turn your head. You're like, great, I've got neck strain now. Like,
I wonder how long you can kind of keep the pace up on Oculus Rift. How long you can actually bear playing with it. That's one thing. I mean, it was a pretty short demo.
For you, especially with your first-person shooter syndrome.
Yeah, I didn't get nauseous at all. It didn't bother me with that, but it's definitely it's an odd experience. Like when you start looking around, it's a little bit weird. And I wonder how long you can do it. But seriously, awesome. If you guys hit, I don't know where they may be showing this again, if they are, but I have to think maybe PAX. I don't know. Hopefully, if for some reason, if you're an E fan, if they do show it, highly recommend you at least go.
If you're a fan of, you don't even have to be an E fan at all.
No.
If you like video game, if you're an X-Wing versus Gareth Harmer, one of our writers, he said this when he first played it. He said, like, it's the game. It's like that experience is what he'd always wanted to have when he first played X-Wing versus TIE Fighter years ago. If you like the idea of that and and being enclosed in that experience, check it out, because it's lots of fun. You'll just feel like a big kid after you finish playing it. It's great.
It does feel like that. It feels like you're kind of like at an amusement park or something, like doing something like it was a lot of fun. All right, last up this week, let's talk about a game that Trion is going to be publishing here in the States. It's called Arcade. Wow, we've been talking for 2 hours already. Wow. All right. We can do an arcade show. All right. So Arcade is a sandbox style MMO created by XL Games. Trion are going to be publishing it here. They're in the process of doing all the localization and that kind of stuff to bring it over here. They did not allow a hands-on demo. We did not get to play the game. I tried. Believe me, I tried. But they walked us through a demo. Again, actually, the entire demo of this, uncut, unedited, up on Game Breaker TV. So you should go watch it. You get all the info, especially kind of a high level demo. So if you're following everything on Arcade, you're probably not going to learn a whole lot there. Scott and myself and a buddy of ours nerded out for like a week or two watching all the Korean videos and dissecting them. So
we just find new ones about it. Go look.
So I kind of knew most. I think neither of us really learned a whole lot in this demo, but still really good stuff to see. Stuff that's really interesting about this, I think, by the way, Scott and I are kind of on the same page with this game. What makes us excited is again, it's sandbox. Don't get a whole lot of them yet. Very heavily built around resources, shipbuilding, and then later Elder game is there are going to be quests in the game. Apparently, there's a good amount of questing, but at the same time, really, what the game is about are the players and empire building your castles. PvPing, burning your opponent's guild halls down, fighting for resources, fighting for territory, all that kind of stuff.
Piracy.
There's pirates. You could become a pirate and things like that. So I don't know. What else do you want to say about it? I mean, I could really start getting into the nitty gritty of this, but I don't even know if we can.
We could go quite. We said before the show that if we could go quite a while about this and get very fanboy about it. It's the Warhammer. The reason is this: is like Age of Wushu is a game that's got sandbox elements, but it's got this clunky stuff that makes it difficult to get into them. I'm hoping that what we get with Arcade is a smooth MMO to play that feels polished, that has that accessibility to it that'll lead you in, but then opens up into all this great stuff. I mean, we saw a ship that had been built by a player being launched into sea as it goes off the dock into it, bounces and floats off, and it looks great. Yeah. And then it just looks really good. It looks crisp. It looks, as you said, polished. It's got all of these things. I saw someone jump on a cow as a mount in a crow's nest and leap onto the ship next to it and start attacking them. And that's sort of the whole battle on the seas looks great. And the idea of like sending out people on gliders to scout out like stealthily and then drop onto opposition ships. I love the idea of that when you want to buy this ship to carry your resource packs, those big materials that are going to be making large places like houses and ships and so on in your hold. And when you invade another ship, you can't get into that. But if you sink that ship, you can dive to the bottom of the ocean to steal all of that stuff and get the resources.
Yes.
All of that just sounds great.
I know. So here are the two takeaways for me. We'll tell the two quick stories about, I think with that they show in that demo a lot is one is that people kind of get a feeling of what they're going for. One thing that they focus on a lot was birthing of the ship, which is I think you're going to do, from what I understand, fairly early on in the game. This is not going to be something that takes an incredible long time in the game. And I'm not talking like some little sailboat. Like I'm talking like a massive ship that can, I don't know if they've said the number of players that can go on the ship, but I think it's probably like 10 or more players. Now, when you and say it's my ship, first of all, we have to build this ship and we need resources. So that means like literally we probably have to go cut down trees to get the wood, right? And then they turn into these packs of wood. When you put these packs on your back, your character actually walks slower than normal. You're encumbered. So things like this, like that we're not very used to in other games, happens. Then you have to put the packs down on the ground. Now, I could build this ship completely by myself if I wanted to, where I could say totally by myself, go chop down trees, get this pack, put the pack down, go back, chop more trees. But you're going to be
very vulnerable while you do it.
If Scott comes walking by and he's like, "Oh, that's some wood," Scott can just pick up that damn wood and steal it from me and take it away. Yeah. So first of all, I think they wanted to stress that a lot. That's the kind of like right from the nitty gritty. It's like you can take other people's stuff, so you're gonna want to fight. Let's say we get 15 people, we throw them all in there. The other big thing for me that I think is awesome is that so when you make your ship, most other games that we've seen when there's any sort of like ship combat or transportation, like things, it's basically just you become the ship, like that becomes your avatar.
Yes, that's not the case.
That does not happen in this game. So when we get on this ship, and I've got 10 of my friends on this ship, you guys better get on guns and start manning cannons.
Hoist the mainmast, and
you have stuff to do on this ship, and all the individual people who are on this ship actually have jobs and things. Not dictated jobs, meaning like you still are your own character on this ship, And when we go out to sea, there are going to be other ships out there probably shooting large cannonballs at you, and you're going to need to defend.
And they can aim at individual position on the ship to kill the players to stop them doing their jobs on the ship. So if you've got somebody who's there on the rudder, aim at it, and then you've got a ship that's sort of like sailing a bit wayward. And then, like, take out the cannoneers and stuff like that. So the ship's a hitbox still, but the positions on the ship where the jobs are being done aren't. So you can take the players out doing specific jobs to minimize the efficiency of that ship.
And somebody in the chat room is saying that they played Lineage 2 for years. That's actually a good point. It is created by the guy who created Lineage 1 and Lineage 2. So yeah. I can't remember his name right now, but that is the dude. I think you definitely should check it out. I'm very excited about Arcade. I can't wait to see more of it. A lot of cool elements and some refreshing stuff. So definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. And go over to GameBreaker.tv and make sure you watch the entire walkthrough. Actually, we'll put all the links to all of the demos that we've talked about today that we have up here in the show notes. So we'll do that. Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief over at Zam.com. Go over to Zam.com. Check it out. And follow Scott on Twitter at Jaramore. That is Jarimor. Jaramore. You can follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon. Follow GameBreaker TV, and make sure to check our Facebook page because we got lots of cool giveaways and things like that going on. I think there's still one going on. I don't know. Check it out. Facebook.com/GameBreaker TV. Guys, thanks so much for watching the show. We do it live every single Friday at 3 PST. We'll be back to normal time next week, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you more for next week in MMO.